Welcome to Personal Mastery Training. I'm your host, Alvin Brown, former world class athlete turned entrepreneur and consultant. Join us as we learn from guests who have conquered their inner battles and share their journeys to success. Get ready for inspirational masterclasses and thought provoking strategy sessions to fuel your path to personal mastery. Let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Personal Mastery Training, the Alliance. I've got my cohorts here, Dr. Charlie Cartwright and Raymond Jacques Tanier. And what we do every time, if you're new, once again, just tell you if we're new, we throw some topics out there, we call it the main meal. And what we do, we cook up around it because what we're serving you is soul food, information for the soul, for you to dissect, for you to stop in your busy life and actually introspect on your life, because a life unexamined isn't worth living, I think was said by Socrates. So let's examine. Let's dive in. Today, Dr. Charlie brings the main meal. So I'm going to get him to share that with us.
Awesome. Well, it's great to be here today. And this is such I think, an important topic for everyone that's out there, in the workplace. I teach a lot of workshops on leadership, personal, professional development. And at the beginning of the workshop, one of my favorite questions to ask the group is I hand out these 3x5 cards blank. And I said, I don't want your name on it. This is anonymous. Give me your top 3 challenges, either personal, professional, doesn't matter. Give me your top 3. And always about 90% of those cards will come back with work-life balance as one of their top challenges. So it's very common out here, and specifically, you know, how we're spending time with our families and how they're perceiving the time that we spend. And our perception and their perception of how we use our time can be completely different. And so, as an example, one of the questions I love to ask the audience is, and I don't, typically the women in the room know the answer, so I kind of rule them out. They're not allowed to answer. And then the grandpas in the room typically know the answer. I don't allow them to answer. So everyone else that's there, I ask the question, how do children spell love? And typically the room they're stumped. They don't know. And the big reveal is they spell it Time, right? Time. And a lot of times I see pins come out, people's heads go down, and they'll be writing that note. So then my next question is, how do most men spell love, right? Again, silence, people don't know. Then the big reveal is they spell love WORK. So you got a family, your children spelling love Time, and then their dad is spelling it WORK. And that's a conflict, right? And so what we've got to be able to do is bridge that gap so that our children understand when we're at work and why, okay, and for how long, okay. But then when the work is done, it's time for us to devote Time to our family by being fully present. But that conversation all too often doesn't happen within a family. And so you have a man over here working harder and harder, and his family is getting angrier and angrier. And in his mind, oh man, don't they know how much I love them? Right? Don't they know? And so, Ray, I'm going to ask you to unmute real quick. And I
Yes.
know you're multilingual. And so I want you to say, I love you to me. I want you to say it in French.
Je t'aime.
So Ray just said, I love you to me in French. I don't speak French. So if I didn't know what he just said, it basically didn't happen. Right? In my mind's not unaware. Ray doesn't really like me. He doesn't get, well, he just told me he loved me. And so it's the same thing with our children. They have a different love language. And when we say, I love you with work, they didn't hear it. Right? They're not speaking that language. And so there's a disconnect. So we've got to close that gap And that's with communication and then dedication to spending the time that we do have. And here's a really important statistic for everybody to understand that's watching or listening to this podcast. University of North Carolina conducted a 15-year-long research study on love and its impact on human beings. And at the end of 15 years, they found that it impacts four things, right? Love impacts everything people think, feel, do, and become. That's a big four, right? And so we have children we're raising. We want to impact everything they think, feel, do, and become. We have to spend time. And with that, I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, TIME. Yeah. Um, it's funny how every single week uh, we have these conversations, and somehow, throughout the week, uh, we've been, or I've been faced specifically with that question. Okay. Um, Let me flip it a little bit. In any family dynamic, team dynamic, couple dynamic, okay? And sorry about the noise, the little guys just woke up, okay, in the back. So in any type of dynamics like that, guys, what's usually the cause of frustration? Okay. When you really look at it, is a lack of understanding. So the man that, or the woman that puts all this time into work instead of at home, but does it for reasons that are noble, they go home and they're frustrated because they feel as though people don't understand why they're actually doing that. It's almost, as you said, Charlie, they're speaking different languages completely, right? And same thing, the wife or the man at home that's like, hey, we need you more at home. Well, the other person has a tough time really understanding, but don't you see I'm actually creating all of this so we can have this, right? So it's one thing to just hear, it's another thing to listen, it's another thing to really make an effort to understand, okay? To understand. That's like the next level. And ultimately, when you look at this dynamic, one thing I find also when we talk about time, okay, is that in order to be understood, you first have to be very clear with yourself about what it is that you truly want other people to understand or see. And oftentimes we don't spend that time with ourselves. Okay. That frustration often comes from ourselves. Okay. I realized something. I felt like, okay, I was always running out of time, but I'm structured. I have this, I have this. And then I realized, okay, and I don't know if a lot of people back home are like that, but I just realized that I spend a lot of times naturally giving to others, okay? Especially with the family, okay, the kids need this, okay? The wife needs this, okay? This person needs this, okay? But then I forgot to really put it in my calendar what truly matters to me. So now that frustration grows, but I don't even know why. But when I spend time with myself, I realize, oh, it's because I'm putting aside what truly matters to me and I'm not making that be understood clear enough. I'm not taking the time to just have the conversation because people that care about you also want what's best for you, but they just need to truly understand it and we need to have that time to connect, okay? Obviously connecting with others, but first connecting with ourselves so that we can actually know what it is. Uh, I don't know if it's like this for women, but for me it's like that. And my wife and I, we always laugh about this. But sometimes I get, let's say, a little bit angry or less patient, and I don't even know why I'm like that. I don't know. I go to my wife and I'm like, I think I'm very pissed off, where I think I'm this, but I'm not sure. So it shows you even that disconnect, even within myself. Okay, where okay, that just means I need to spend more time in there to truly get the source of it, to understand it for myself, because I can't give something to somebody else that I don't have for myself, you know? So it starts with that too. So whenever you have a family and obviously you love them and life is just greater and better with them, well, the best you can give to them is working on you for them, you know, being there for you for them. But if you don't spend the time on you first, the time with you, the time you will give them not won't be as great because you can't fully be there. Even when you're there, you have your mind somewhere else. Okay, you there's something that unspoken that hasn't been addressed that's only gonna grow, you know, and you can even feel it in the atmosphere. Like with me and my wife, I can feel it in the atmosphere when, hey, there's something we should talk about right now. I don't know what it is, but I know something feels weird right now. So let's figure out what it is. Let's spend the time. And oftentimes when we do that, whatever I felt was her fault, let's say, I realized through our conversations that, hey, it actually starts with me. It starts with me not being clear enough about certain things or not, giving her more understanding because she cannot be in my head and I cannot be in her head. But I believe also an expression of love is giving unconditionally, but is really intentionally looking to understand someone else's point of view, someone else's lenses, and looking to love them that way. Okay, but first we need to understand ours, and I feel like we have this wall even within ourselves for a lot of us because we go 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 go. That's what work is. Oftentimes we go 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 go, and then we get a little bit lost. Okay, so how can we be found is first having that compass and taking a step and just looking around. Okay, am I going in the right direction? Okay, I ended up here because I've been, pivoting and doing this, when really my goal is to go in this direction. So really all I need to do is change this little angle and now I'm back on track. But I need time, I need to look within myself first to figure that out, you know? So I'll start off with that and I'll pass the mic.
Yes, yes, some great conversations here on a topic that's very interesting, Charlie, that you say, in the audience, the males. And that's such an generational conversation, a generational um, message that was handed down. Back in the 40s and different setup, the structure of society was set up so different that the man would be the one, oh, go on out there and, bring home the bacon and the blah, 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 and all this, and, bring it home. Coming off of a long era of male dominated patriarchal society where you did go out and work and hunt and bring it home and the lady cooks it and say, so on and so on. So today, this idea can translate into so many different areas because and I would call it the male energy. The male energy, instead of say a gender, it's an energy because there's some women who executives who can put it in the same and do the same. And so it's a thought process. It's a thing that's been handed down through the era of it's starting to possibly fade now, but it's still some lingering of that going on where and women by nature are more they're the one that gave birth to those children. So they have that, you know, um inclination to be a bit more mindful of the family dynamics and what's happening at home. And the man, we plant the seed and we back in the day we hardly showed up for the rest of the nurturing of the seed. It's starting to get a bit better now. So it's an energy thing, and it can be shifted, to we become the male narrative becomes more mindful of this balance, this idea of connecting. One of the things that affected me early in my life, because when I met my wife, uh, I had a big family. She didn't. And I took responsibility for a lot of my family. So I actually taught my wife how to, and she doesn't mind admitting this. I taught her how to change diapers. I taught her how to this. I showed up on our first date with my niece in hand, taking care of my niece. So it can be that energy that was delivered, and I grew up with a single mom, so I saw that. So I got some of her energy, that nurturing side. So yeah, it does become, and it can shift. It is shifting. And the thing is, time, I wrote here, time is not about, it's not about putting in the time too, as you know. It's not about that, oh, a lot of people when I talk to them about this idea of connecting, connecting with their family, or let's say, let's say that the mom, I'm gonna go to the mom who feels guilty about not having enough time with her family, trying to work, trying to balance, trying to do, and not enough, just feels guilty that she's never really getting enough quality time in, or enough time at all. Just get home, put them to bed. And I had an interesting experience. I had an interesting experience with a client of mine, and this is really powerful in my opinion. He said, because we was talking about building wow moments in his life, those moments where I typically tell my clients to plan Sundays should be a day of planning your week. Take some time, an hour, whatever it is, and plan your week. What's the outcome you want for this week? Don't hit Monday these are for high performance people who want to perform. Don't hit Monday thinking about what you're going to do today. Plan it all out. What do you want in a week? Where's it going? Right? There's 52 of these. What do you want? What do you want the month to look like? The quarter to look like? Really take some time to plan. Then Monday morning hits, you are intentional. And then he said so he started to build these wow moments and he started to realize that he said, I just realized while I'm doing this, that during the week or during our life, we're just getting the kids home, and by the time we get them home from school or whatever, we're just waiting for them to go to bed. And the time we put into them once they're home, it's dinner, it's running them around, doing this, doing that, task management until we can't wait until they go to bed and then they go to sleep. So it's the quality isn't there. So I'm thinking, wow, that's so true. That's a lot of what people do. And weekends, you they become bothersome because that's your only weekend that you have. So now you're not really you're just getting through the weekend because you can't wait till Monday when they go off to school again. And by the time they get home, you're just let's get them to here, let's do these tasks, and then get them to bed. And finally we have a minute to ourselves, but the time with them is just a becomes burdensome, where you're waiting for that 1 hour to yourself and it becomes burdensome. So I got to think, geez, yeah, we do. A lot of people do that where the time with your kids it isn't time with them. And I'm always telling people this, you don't need to spend 16 hours with your kids. They don't need that. What they need, though, is one good hour where the phone goes off and you are giggling and connecting and tickling and it's just one good hour. And then they don't need you to be staring at them for 2, 3, 4 hours. So this fallacy too that you can't have enough time to do anything because I want to it's guilt time you're putting in. And you're not even really present. You should be at work. I should get this done. No, time, truly time, which is where you turn off anything distractions. 1 hour, schedule 1 hour. And when that hour is up, I'm telling you, they will remember the 1 hour. But if it's 6 hours that you think you need of distracted, wishing you were somewhere else, wishing you were working on your own thing, wishing you were, they're not going to remember that. It's a burdensome. So the quality of time that you put in is what really, really matters. Turn everything off, face to face, take a laugh, watch a show together. Did you see what Dora did? Did you see? That's truly what matters. This idea that I'm going to put my dreams to the side because I want to spend their whole childhood with them. Meanwhile, you forgot about yourself. And now you become resentful. And now the time becomes checking task lists because you're too tired. You're too. So, what's the being intentional is the key here. The father who works all day, let's say father, or the person who works all day comes home. What about that first hour that you're home where the energy is somewhat still there? You may be tired, I'm not sure. But the first energy you have, spend that. Turn everything off. Can't wait to get home. Because I would say that's one of the secrets I had too. Was when I got home, instantly I took the kids from my wife. Took I could get her on this podcast right now to confirm that we as soon as I got home, they were mine, and she knew that. So we actually were fighting for who would have them. You know what I mean in a way. So the quality and I realized, you know, my kids are 32 and down, right? I can give you that history. That it wasn't about, oh, let me spend 4 or 5 hours with them a day and that's good. Woo, I got the time. No, it's not about that. It's about the hour. The things they remember is crazy that you didn't think they would remember that were fun. So, what's the time you put in? That would be my thing is it's not just this idea of, and by the way, work-life balance, many people tell you that it's different descriptions for different people. It's not, and when you think about balance, think about this. So a lot of people think, let's take a scale or a teeter-totter. I say this to people all the time. If we take a teeter-totter and Charlie weighs, 300 pounds and I weigh 150. Well, where's it going to go? There's going to be a heavy loaded weight on Charlie's side. I'm going to be up here. Can't even get him down because he's double my weight. Well, what people are trying to do at this work-life balance is they wish life was this heavy 300 pounds and work was 150. Remember, that's not balance either, right? Balance is this nice equilibrium between the two, where you are working a gainful work, present work, and you're home being present at home. That's truly the balance. So it doesn't matter how much, it's just what the time you're putting in, the focus, the intention. So again, time and this idea of communication, mind reading, and sharing the meaning of communication is the response you get. Is if you're intentional at home, you will pick up that you're not really there. I've seen people let's take some of the men who now get uh what is that you get at work again? Time off at work for men now. You can get what's the name of that now?
Uh,
Pardon
in
me?
French, c'est congé paternel, paternity.
Yes, there it is, paternity. That's the one. Exactly, paternity leave. I know one man at home, his wife she's the main earner. And I don't talk to her, but I talk to her sister. I said, "How's it going?" Ah, he's just sitting at home now. He's not doing anything, and the
Mhm.
wife's working hard, and he's supposed to be home doing that side, but he's not. He's sitting on the couch. She's frustrated. See, so it doesn't have to be about his time because now he's a stay-at-home husband, but he's not even having food ready when she gets home. He's again. So this idea of balance. Ray brought touched on it, Charlie touched on it. It's the idea of being present. That's the true balance, is being present enough to make sure your time, which you only have the 24/7, the time is spent intentional. It doesn't matter. If it's half an hour you have, be intentional about the half hour. It doesn't have to be 6 hours. So don't feel guilty that you're way behind. Anyways, with that, I'll pass the mic for now.
Yeah, those are excellent points that you both made, and it made me think of a couple of things to add. And what you said is so true about being intentional about that time. And when we're with our families, that we're fully present, that we're not peeking at our phone, we're not peeking at text messages, we're not peeking at emails, we're not peeking at social media, that we're able to focus that time, if it's 1 hour, whatever that number is we've come up with, is really important because our children notice that if we're distracted. And then when they realize we're distracted, the magic's gone, right? We've lost that magic, that opportunity. That's number one. Number two is how we spend that time. It is important that, yes, love is spelled Time to children, but how do we spend that Time? Are we doing what we want to do, or are we doing what they want to do? Right? And so it's so important to spend time in activities that the children want to do with us. Hey, Dad, can we? And that looks different for every child. One child wants to play catch out in the backyard. Another child wants to go. Hey, can we go on a hike? Another child. Hey, can we go to the gym? Another child. Hey, can we go get coffee? And so it's so important to make sure that we're spending time in a way that our children value, right? And then the third thing is, while we're having those interactions, our children, our families look for really support. They look for us to encourage them, to build them up. They crave that we are our approval. They crave our approval as a parent. And so, and I can't speak for women, I speak for dads out there, that what I tell the dads, but I'm sure it applies to the moms out there too, is, let's say our child is in sports and they play, let's say, baseball. Well, they got all these teammates, and let's say our child's very good, and so we see their teammates are congratulating them, and they're encouraging them, and their coaches are encouraging them. And so it can be real easy as a parent to say, well, they get all this encouragement and reinforcement from their team. They don't really need to hear about it from me. But what I'll tell dads is, for every time, if you put it in American dollars, for every time that a coach says good job to your child, it's worth a penny. And every time their teammates say, hey, good job, or give them some encouragement, it's worth a penny. But every time mom says it, or every time dad says it, it's worth $1. Our approval is so much weightier than everybody else outside of the household. And so it works the other way. So when we display disapproval, right, we're taking that dollar out of their accounts. And so if they've gotten 50 great jobs from their teammates and their coaches, and they get one that's not good, man, we put them in the negative as far as their emotional state, because we put them in the negative because our words matter more than everyone else's. So we've got to be mindful of those things. And if we do that, then we put ourselves in a position to really be there for our families in a way that they need us to show up in. And with that, I'll pass the mic.
Mm. There's so many things we talk about. I want to start off by the quality versus quantity uh, aspect. Think of education. I think education is very interesting because you have certain kids who are homeschooled, for instance, right? Uh, my kids will go to school, and the ring, it rings at what, 7:50. Okay, so he has to be right there at 7:50, walk in there. I come and pick him up after school, right? But if I really look at it, Is he learning something the whole time that he's there? Or is there a lot of time just being passed by because that's what the system is, and people have to work and the kids have to be there? So they created a whole ecosystem around that. While I know certain kids who are homeschooled, they literally do 2 hours of focused work in the day. Okay. 2 hours and then they're done. Okay. And they're done. They play around, they do all kinds of other stuff, and they succeed too. Right? They succeed too. They don't have to be sitting uh, in a chair for 8 hours. Okay. And I'm not saying all schools are like that, but it just shows two different paths. Okay. So our school system, there's quality in there, but it's more based on quantity because that's what's needed. And there are other routes where it's really about quality. Well, same thing, for our time. And I thought that was a great point because, man, if whenever we're there, we make the most out of it. It's truly quality time. It goes so much further. It recharges our battery. It gives lifelong lessons, memories. Man, it's special, right? When we focus on quality. Uh, Second thing, I think it's you, Alvin. You were saying that back then when you got home, you took the kids, from Susie, and that was the thing. Uh, Setting the tone is so important too. You know, don't you guys think? I remember I had a football coach, and he would tell us, okay, um, he wanted us to play with order, solidarity, and enthusiasm. That was his thing. But he put a big emphasis on enthusiasm. Okay. People love the game, love the game. They usually do great things. And he would tell us, in order to develop your enthusiasm, here's what I want you to do. When your alarm clock rings in the morning, jump out of bed. Okay. That's what he would say. He's like, jump out of bed. And we'll be like, why jump out of bed? It's like, because if you go out of bed really slow and sloppy, well, that sets the tone. That sets the tone for the rest of your morning, the rest of your day. But if you jump out of bed, okay, you have that energy, that fire, that enthusiasm, it carries over. I find the same thing for every other areas of our life, especially our family. If we open up that door, okay, after a long day's work, and we walk in there simply with a smile, okay, with enthusiasm, it sets the tone, not only for the kids, but for your significant other too. Instead of having someone walk in there who doesn't even seem like they're happy to be there. Okay, it seems like they're clocking in for another shift or of something, when really this is why you do it for. And love and family, that's the difficult part about it. Also, is understanding that if I want a great marriage, uh, I can't simply look at my wife and expect her to love me all the time. We're married, so obviously I want her to love me, but I need to love her first, whether I want to or don't at this moment. It's my job to love her first because that sets the tone, that initiates everything. If I come with love, whether I feel like it or not at this moment, good things come from that. I think the Bible says that women, they multiply what you give them. I find that to be very true in my experience, in my opinion. You know, give them love, give them good things if it's the right one, of course, and she will multiply that in ways that you can't even imagine. But bring a bad attitude, bring other stuff, they can multiply that too pretty well. Okay, pretty well. So being a leader is conversations I have with my kids all the time. I find it's really about initiating something, starting something. Okay, not waiting, asking for permission, or having someone come from the sky and fix everything for you. First, help yourself, and magically, because there are laws that we talk about every single week, things will happen from you initiating that. So initiate the quality time, be the first one to love, be the first one to bring enthusiasm, all of that stuff. I find that so important. Then, Charlie, you talked about how much children crave our approval, and that's so true too. And I'll give an example with my son Noah. Uh, when you look at him with his mom, it's so funny because she's always kissing on him, and you can tell he's so happy. He's so happy. That's his thing. It's like oxygen for him. And I don't do that. I'm not always necessarily kissing on him. We have another type of relationship. Of course, we do other stuff together. But Noah remembers any moment that I do kiss him on the cheek. They matter so much to him. Like seriously, he even told me yesterday. He's like, you don't kiss me often. That's okay. But I love when you do it. It's not like mommy, it's different, but I do love and remember when you do it. Man, that means a lot. So that means whether it's my thing or not, okay, it does have a lasting impact on my son. It speaks to him in a way that's very different when daddy kisses me on the cheek, because daddy doesn't do that. When he does that, man, it must mean he really, really loves me, you know? And I'll leave it with this for anyone with children or living with people that they truly care about. Uh, no matter the situation, let us remind ourselves, okay? If you're tired, if you have this going on, that going on, and you feel like, man, I need to step off, I need this time for me, or the kids bother me, let's just remember, um, when I look at them, I'm reminded that I'm so blessed just to live this moment. Okay. Just to live this moment. And it's the only moment that they will be the way they are now. You know, my little Eli who's turning 2 this summer in July, he will never be that age again. You know, and I remember years back when Noah was that age and I was working, I was so focused, I was like pushing. I would leave in the morning, he would be asleep. I would come back home, he would be asleep. And I don't have much regrets in my life. The only one, I find I always had quality time with him. But my only regret really is that those years I didn't get to see him grow up like that. They kind of flew by. They really flew by. I see him in pictures and I'm like, wow, you look like that. While with Eli, I'm truly soaking it in. I'm soaking it in. I want to see every little moment, because I did learn you do get better. And the first ones also, it's not their fault, it's not your fault, but everything's new, right? Everything's new. You're learning along the way. You don't know. But I find when you do learn something, do better and be better, or at least try to be intentional about that. So same thing for significant others. No matter if you're frustrated or not, let's not forget, okay, why they're so special and why they're in your life and why your life wouldn't be the same without them. And we forget, well, anyways, without getting into details, I know, just I appreciate you both, but Alvin, just having you around, for me, it's a great reminder. Okay, and I'm grateful of that. Is that, like, we always say that when you have health, for instance, you don't see how important it is until you don't. Okay, and then it's all that matters. While those little kids running around, hey, don't forget, you're blessed. You're blessed. Okay.
Absolutely.
And things wouldn't be the same. Same thing for your wife, your husband. If you truly love them, well, it wouldn't be the same. So let's not get complacent on that stuff. Let's not forget their value. And that's the key to being intentional, I find, because it's a daily reminder. It's a daily reminder of what matters. And I'll just finish with this, okay, when it comes to work is um, I don't believe also in 50-50 when we talk about balance. I don't know if that works. Well, for me it doesn't work. I'm saying if I truly care about something, if it's not gonna bother me in my mind, okay, because I know I'm leaving things on the table, I have to focus on going 100, okay? And when I'm done with that and I need to be with my wife or with my kids, I have to remind myself that, okay, now it's time to go 100 here. It's 100. It's not 50-50, okay? That's really what it is. It's 100. And that gives purpose, true purpose and importance to what you do. And whether someone has your love language or is in your place or not, they can understand that. They can understand purpose. Okay. So when you look at your child and you had to work a lot this week and couldn't spend as much time with them, but you do have that conversation and you're saying, man, even though I have that 1 hour, it's so important to me. And man, it matters to me. Well, the 60, 70 hour week, if that's what you had to put in, they get it. And they know you're here now and they'll remember that how important that is to you, you know. So with this, I'll pass the mic.
Hey, if I can jump in real quick, Alvin,
Of
it's
course.
a couple of things I wanted to comment on what Ray said. Um, before earlier, he talked about unconditional love, which is really important. Then he talked about being first, right? Not waiting, on our spouse to show appreciation for us, initiating these things. And then he talked about 100, right? And those are powerful things. And so, unconditional love, one of the things we have to do is be first, right? And not keep score. Well, I've initiated these last three dates, or I'm gonna wait for him or her to do something, right? We got to be first. It's unconditional. When it's unconditional, we're not keeping score. Well, I worked X amount of hours. Well, I took the kids to the park the last 12 times. Well, I drove to the theater. Well, I drove, not keeping score. When keeping score, we really get into trouble, right? In our relationships, we can't keep score. Unconditional. I'm not keeping score. I'm doing what I need to do to make sure everybody is loved, supported, and encouraged, right? And then there's 100. A friend of mine shared this with me, and it was such a great wisdom that he talked about in the Bible how, a man and a woman would be married and become one. And he's like, well, 1 plus 1 is 2, right? But he said, I was looking at it wrong. He said, it's not 1 plus 1, it's 1 times 1. 1 times 1 is 1. But if somebody shows up 50%, now it's 1 times, and one person show up 100%, the other show 50%, it's not 1 anymore, right? 1 times 1, or to your point, Ray, 100%, 100%. That's it. 1 times 1 is 1. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
All right. Here's how I'm gonna wrap this up. It's a couple of key points and some great conversations here from both of you. I'm gonna go to Simon Sinek. The one thing about Simon Sinek is he's pretty good at summarizing things. All right. And he's got this new concept now that he's working on called 8 minutes. 8 minutes. If you ever want, just think about this for a second. Charlie or Ray and I could not see each other for like talk for weeks, months, whatever. But if they're having an issue, I give them 8 minutes. You know how powerful that is?
Mm.
That's enough time for Ray to tell me about something going on with his family, Charlie to tell me about something going on in his life, and me to give a little bit of feedback. So this idea, this guilt, let me rid any parent or anyone out there who struggles with guilt about not being there enough. It's BS. What you want is that intentional time. Too many, again, I've counseled and worked with too many parents, especially have guilt their entire friggin' parental life because they weren't enough. They didn't give them enough. I mean, how many kids want you in their face as even as they get older for 6 hours a day, whatever the time you think you need to be in their face every day? They're getting tired of you, especially as they get older. Jesus, again, mom, with this thing. Did you leave us alone? They need just that half hour. They need the 8 minutes. I don't know, whatever it is, but they need you to be present. So let's rid yourself of the guilt of not enough time. I am going to officially grant you the and bequeath you freedom. I'm gonna take your chains off and be free of guilt and shame of not spending enough time. No, you're not spending enough quality time. Because if I haven't seen that good friend in months, years, but we have like a half hour together on a call, man, this made up for it. See, it's not about the time. It's about being there. And so being present. And Charlie talked about this idea of approval of us worth a dollar versus pennies from someone else in a way. And that's true, and here's what I want to point out with that, by the way. You don't have to a lot of European and some other families, uh North American, don't kiss their kids. Let's say don't kiss their kids or don't show emotions that way. However, the way they show up, you know, tells that child that they love them. Because it's a way, because 93% of communication is nonverbal. So we also that approval that Dr. Charlie talked about, remember that your body language also approves me. The way you say it approves me. I never, and I'm gonna say that's a generalization, but truly, I never, when my kids played ball or they played sports in general, they'll tell you. I sat way up in the stands or way up in the field, far away from them. I said they heard me, zero heard me behind the backstop, like I saw some parents in baseball, for instance. Come on, they're coaching the kid and they're right behind there, even though the coach is there. I stayed so far away from them that they never heard my voice. My plan was this: if they went on and did this thing in college or wherever they did it, my voice won't be there every time. And now they've become anchored to motivated by me or maybe demotivated by me always being there, in their ear. So I stayed away. In the car on the way home, we had conversations about, hey, what happened on second there? I saw that. And I am certain because I had my computer with me. It looked like I wasn't paying attention. I'm certain parents were saying, no, this guy's never. But I tell you, my son, we we have long drives to from where I am now to St. Louis. It's 15 hours, 17 hours in that car. No radio was on. We just talked about. But at the games, I don't say anything. I don't. So I was always intentional about being present for them. And I tell you, it pays off now. The kids are older now. They're moved out, most of them. And our relationship's tight as anything. And I'm blessed that way. So, and I got it, obviously with my son, I got a chance to hear and see uh, the work, the impact. It was special. So, what I'm getting at is this idea. Let's wrap this thing up a little bit. Time. The conversation was work, balance, time, time versus work. You can, again, the reason why I brought up this idea of balance, a lot of people, quote unquote, give up their personal passion. Because not everybody's meant to be a family person, stay at home and all this stuff. Some people love going after their dreams, their professional life. go for it. Go for it. Unabashedly, go for it. However, if you do choose to have a family on the side of going for that dream, because if you live out your dream, trust me, you are feeling fulfilled and you have more for your loved ones because you're living your dream. So don't squash that. I'm not saying to squash that. Go for it. I've gone for my dream, by the way, as I'm raising my 4 kids and the family with my wife. I've gone for my dreams all along the way, but I was being intentional. I built my life, my work around my life. So, TIME, it's not just about on the clock, it's about intentional, being intentional. How you spend that TIME, that 24 hours, that 168 or whatever it's in a week. How do you spend it? This is why I tell on Sundays you plan the intention. What do you want to have? Look at your calendar. Are you spending enough TIME doing the things you love, the people you're with, and so on? Be more intentional. So that would be my feedback on that is yeah, it's not the clock on it's not the digits on your clock. It's about what you do with it. So with that, I'll pass that mic for the final round.
Right. Well, the word for the week, and I think my word for the week is going to be time, right? Time spent with loved ones and time spent in meaningful pursuits. So just being intentional about the time that I do have and the way I spend it. That'll pass the mic.
My word for the week will be presence. To be present, using this time and making sure it's quality wherever it is. Quality before quantity.
Mhm. I'm gonna take from Ray 3 words. Set the tone.
Mm.
For whatever it is that you wanna you get jump out of bed. Set the tone. Put yourself in state. One of the things I had the blessing. I followed Tony Robbins for years in my early years. We listened to all his CDs, his tape, and I had his module workbook from my mentor. I wore it out. So I had the pleasure of working with him, doing some security for him. Just a small stint, just one stint, but it was great because here's why. I used to show up for events and things I did, boxing, whatever, martial arts, dance, whatever it is, speeches. I used to show up for them somewhat prepared. But when I did the security for Tony and I saw him go in his room and it was Tony, the guy, and then he went in his room and he came out of his room, he's put us all outside. Nobody was came in, and then he went inside. And then he came out after about 20 minutes, sweating, beads of sweat rolling down, and he looked like the Tony Robbins that I knew. And he put himself in this state because he knew he wanted to be the thermometer. He wanted to be a thermostat, and his audience is a thermometer. He wanted to set the tone. So a lot of people go out and they hope the audience receives them, or they hope that the event goes well. No, he set the tone. He set it up that he's going to raise the temperature in the room. So he came out of that room sweating and put himself in a state that they are now raising to meet him. So set the tone in your marriage, in your life, in your at work, wherever you are. Set the tone. All right. With that, then, that is the meal served. Hope with all those ideas thrown around that my mentor said, I'm gonna leave you one more thing my mentor shared with me. He said, one idea, and this was Dr. Charlie's mentor as well. One idea, well executed, can change your life forever. So remember, in all of this podcast that we did, all the podcasts that we do, what's the one idea you're gonna take away and apply it? And that's all you need to do. You can't apply 10 ideas this week. One idea. All right, and be intentional. All right, fellas. What do we want to share with our before we leave? What do we want to share with them? We wish them what? Peace.
Some peace.
Whole lot of love. And just a sprinkle of soul, baby, because that can be too much sometimes. All right, anyways, can't have too much. All right, until next week. My fellas, I thank you. Appreciate you guys. Let's go spend some intentional time today, plan our weeks, be intentional, and we'll see you next time.